Are you ready?
This is From the Backline, a soccer podcast from Vancouver, covering the game at home and abroad. Here are your hosts, Mark Daly and Jorge Mendoza.
Hey everybody, welcome back from the Backline, episode something. I should have checked with Jorge before that. Anyways, it is May 6th, 2026. Mark Daly, Jorge Mendoza here. Bro, you look like you're seething. Before, like when we sat down in pre-production, you're like, bro, I got a rant. And I'm like, that sounds serious. And it's not to do with the Whitecaps. It's not to do with anything else. But you're just like, I don't need to lead with it off the top. But it's about somebody who's negative for MLS. And
That's right.
You're going to let this kind of like simmer and seethe. And, this is called foreshadowing. I'm trying to build towards something because, like we're pretty weak on content. So I thought I'd try and do something to get our listener excited about something in the show. But anyways, how's it going, bro? You look relaxed tonight.
We're pretty weak overall, I would say.
Yeah.
And content is just one of the things that we're weak on. But yes, I have something that has been pressing on my chest, Mark, and it's been wanting to come out. So I'm gonna let it simmer and fester, if you will, for a few more minutes. So maybe second
It's not
half of the
indigestion,
show,
is it?
I will go. I think it might be a little bit of a heartburn, but
Yeah.
it could be that or just this rant that I have stuck in my chest right now. But it'll come out maybe second half of the show.
Yeah, maybe crush a couple of Tums and see how it goes. And if it's still there, then maybe it's actually something. And if it goes away, then it was just heartburn. So, it works either way. I mean, you're either doing something for your health or you're going to do something for the show. So we'll see how it goes.
For my physical my mental health.
Yeah, exactly. So 280, 90 something
93.
shows. Yeah, all of them previously classic until this one, which is probably, a very unique opener, which, for our standards is no small feat. So,
yeah.
Anyways, why don't we talk about the Whitecaps? 1-1 draw on the road, got the rebound match against the San Jose Earthquakes in San Jose this week. And Steven Lenhart's not playing, is he? It doesn't matter for the rest of eternity who plays for the San Jose Earthquakes. I will always associate that team with Steven Lenhart and how much that guy got under my skin and bothered me. And do you remember that time? Like, I usually dig up the GIF for this one. That time, it was about 10, 12, 13 years ago. Remember, Steven Lenhart flopped right outside the box and Andy O'Brien basically went and grabbed him by the scruff of his neck and pulled him to his feet. And, Lenhart had a bit of a hissy fit. That was, from that era of the Vancouver Whitecaps, that was a classic moment because Andy was taking no crap from, that crappy Steven Lenhart guy. And it was a great moment.
I associate.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, of course. And
Okay,
I also
good.
remember when I think it was Nigel Reo-Coker sent someone flying. And it might have been Lenhart as well, actually. But I will always associate the San Jose Earthquakes with Chris Wondolowski.
Do you know what also?
To be honest, the way in which the San Jose Earthquakes, I kind of wish Chris Wondolowski was still playing because he was all right, but like he was not. He would not start on these San Jose Earthquakes. But before we talk about San Jose, let's go back.
No, but hang on for a second. Since we're talking about that era, I mean, Nigel Reo-Coker sent Lenhart flying. You know what's else sent Nigel Reo-Coker flying? Bike racks, allegedly. Anyways, if you remember, you remember.
We don't talk about
that anymore.
No.
Anyways, sure. So where do we want to go? We talked about indigestion and bike racks, and now I guess we should try and talk about something serious, right?
Let's talk about the LA Galaxy and the Vancouver Whitecaps playing on Saturday night to a 1-1 draw.
Right.
Thoughts? I think the end result doesn't necessarily reflect what happened on the pitch. I think that the Whitecaps were more dominant at the time. Like when you look at just the numbers of the game, the Whitecaps had 9 shots against 5 of the Galaxy. They had 4 on target against the 3 that were actually, they had more possession, 57-43. They had 468 passes, and for 292 of the Galaxy. They had better accuracy. It just feels like the at the end of the day, the the score line doesn't necessarily reflect what happened on the pitch. But hey, at the end of the day, it's just whoever scores more goals than the other team, and in this case, they score one apiece.
I'm going to ask you this: and I want to frame this question properly. Was this a case of 2 points lost or a point salvaged?
That's a great question. Wow, which is not.
We went through the filler, and now we're going to get serious.
You see, I feel conflicted for two reasons. One is last week when we were talking about the beginning of this road trip, we said that, or I said that this game against the Galaxy was a very easy game to draw, which ended up happening. Not saying that I was right or that I know a lot about football, but if you want to draw that conclusion, I won't stop you. But when you look at the game, I felt like the Whitecaps were better on the day, but at the same time, it feels like they rescued a point because of the late goal by by Matias Laborda. So, in a way, it's like, well, they deserve to win, but they kind of were not going to, and then they rescue a draw at the end. I think I'm gonna pull a page out of Mark Daly's book, and I'm gonna sit on the fence, and I'm gonna say I think that at the end of the day it was a fair result.
Yeah, 100%. I think they earned the point that they deserved. But I mean, if you look at the stats from this one, Vancouver ended up dominating the possession, almost 58% of the ball compared to 42 for the LA Galaxy. Vancouver had 19 shots compared to 7 for the Galaxy, 5 shots on goal compared to 2 for the Galaxy. LA was forced to make 4 saves. Vancouver only 1. We'll talk about things like fouls and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, what really for me affected the team was the last minute scratch of Thomas Müller. I mean, you cannot, expect to go into a match with a player of the quality and caliber of Thomas Müller and find out literally seconds before kickoff that he's a scratch because of illness. I mean, you were expected to play. I mean, you prepare the entire week or whatever it is, in advance of a match. The coach has an idea of what his starting 11 is going to be, and Thomas Müller is such an important piece in this Vancouver Whitecaps side. And so to lose him at last moment and then have to retool and, kind of go with, what you weren't expecting to do. I just felt that they didn't really have as much up the middle as they normally would. And it just felt like they were just lacking some sort of I felt like they were lacking a bit of a creative spark, and I really don't feel like that spark really appeared until about the hour mark when Jesper Sorensen subbed in Cabrera for Kubas, AZ for Sabi, and Caicedo for Sabali. And I felt like that last half an hour, the last 30 minutes was better than the entire first half and that first quarter of an hour in the second half. They felt more threatening in the second half. I felt prior to that they felt just a little bit out of sync, a little bit flat. Exactly. Mm-hmm. That's what I felt. And had it not been that way, and again, I mean, it's difficult to pivot and expect the same thing when you lose like such a crucial piece like Müller at the last moment. But I felt like if they had that spark earlier in the match, then and the stats so heavily in their favor, and that's not to say that Jesper waited too long to make that substitution. It's just unfortunate that maybe had that spark appeared late in the first half or maybe in the second half, even before the substitutions were made, I would have thought that, just based on the statistics that something was bound to go their way. But it felt like, that entire night, like it was just destined to be a match that they weren't going to win. And I know you're kind of going for like the sitting on the fence kind of thing, but I don't disagree with you. I think at the end of the day, they got exactly what they deserved. I mean, it's not what we wanted, but it's what they deserved. And it wasn't the greatest, but I mean, it was still a point. And, it is what it is. And, we go to San Jose this weekend and a chance to do it again this weekend on Saturday night at PayPal Park in the Bay Area there. So move along.
So I have three things that I want to unpack of what you said. Number one, number one is I agree with you that like the attack looks so much sharper after he made those substitutions. This is why I feel like the best role right now for Bruno Caicedo continues to be to come off the bench with 25, 30 minutes on the clock and run at players with that blinding speed that he has.
Mm-hmm.
And he's gonna catch tired legs and he's gonna wreak havoc of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of like reinforces that in my head, at least for now. Like I think that is a great tool that Sorensen has in his arsenal, where he can put Caicedo in the last 30 minutes or so and make something happen, just like he kind of did, and obviously they got a goal in the 81st minute. Second thing is Kenji Cabrera. I want to hear your thoughts on Kenji Cabrera. I think that he has shown moments of brilliance. I think that he's a young player and has tons of talent and lots of potential. I am worried about the consistency of Kenji Cabrera and how long do we need to wait until he starts to become the difference maker that we're hoping that he can be. And I don't want to put pressure on it. Like, I'm just thinking, well, it's been like a full season because he came halfway through the season last year.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, if I'm being unreasonable and say like, hey, give him at least a season and a half, okay, maybe that's what we need. But like, at what moment are we start like saying like, okay, well, we want to see more from Kenji Cabrera on a more consistent basis?
Yeah, that's fair, right? I mean, but let's put it into context. I mean, he's 23, so I mean, arguably, you don't see players coming really into their prime. That doesn't mean that they can't be a difference maker even at that young age. But I mean, I feel like he kind of set the bar kind of high. I mean, he scored like in his debut, did he not, like last year? And then he got that playoff goal. So, I mean, he's also a regular with the Peruvian national team. So he set the bar pretty high, but like you said, not like I said, I shouldn't steal your thoughts and words, but I will build on them. It's consistency. And that's the thing that's important, I think, just for, I think anybody in the squad, because as we know, MLS it's a physical league. It's a demanding league compared to a lot of other leagues, top tier leagues around the world. There's so much more travel, and that wears on players over time. And then just the physical nature of the MLS game compared to other leagues is that regardless who it is and when you need them, either starting a match or coming off the bench, you really need those players to contribute consistently. And I feel we're not quite there just yet. And I think it's a great kind of add-on to your comments about Bruno Caicedo, right? Because and we're a little bit different with Bruno Caicedo because he's literally been in town for a week. I mean, a little bit more than a week, but also he's only been at the club for a month or two, and I agree with you when you talk about Caicedo that he's best used off the bench, like you say, later in the matches, letting him run at defenders with tired, heavy legs. So I guess the big question is, we need Kenji to be more consistent and deliver in whatever situation. But the question then becomes, is he better starting a match or is he better off the bench? And I'm not really sure, but I mean, I think it's interesting too. Like, I mean, if you go back and I just got to look at sorry, go ahead.
Would you look that up? Okay, so you say, okay, is he better coming off the bench or is he better to start the game? Okay, well, if he was to start the game, who are you going to sit? Right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, he replaced Kubas, but Yeah, who do you sit in
But
that case?
he's not a defensive midfielder. He doesn't do the same job that Berhalter and Cubas do. Like he's more of a winger. He's more of like a maybe attacking midfielder. Right?
Exactly.
So you're not gonna sit Müller. You know, or you're gonna sit like Sabi or Sabali. Maybe I think I mentioned last week I'm a Sabi guy, so I wouldn't sit Sabi for Cabrera. And on the left hand side, I think you have still like better options. So
I agree. So then I think just when you frame it that way, Jorge, I think then it becomes that he is not at that place yet where he can displace those other players. I think there's better options ahead of him. And I think it comes down to competition, like within the squad, right? You really need to prove that you deserve to be in that starting 11. And if you're not, you have to make an impact when you're called off of the bench. And then it's going to be, I think the culmination or I guess like your total body of work, as it was like, what did you do when you were you were brought into the game? What are you doing outside of matches and training? Like what are you doing to really deserve those minutes? And moreover, what are you doing to really prove to the coach that you need to be bumping a Sabi or a Sabali or whoever it is? Because I agree with you. I don't think he's there yet. And like you say, he's not a defensive midfielder either. I mean, that doesn't say that he wasn't effective. I think that the substitutions that the Jesper made, like those three with Cabrera, AZ, and Casero, really changed the look of the Whitecaps and really injected that energy that they needed. So I think he was effective in that game, but that's just one game. It was half an hour, and I think he has to. I think he needs to really live up to his potential, right? Mm-hmm. And then it really comes back to your initial comments about consistency.
And don't get me wrong, like I'm more than happy to give him time because again, like I think that he has a high ceiling. And,
yes.
And so we just gotta be a little patient and I think that the quality will show up eventually. Last thing that I wanted to unpack based on what you said, going back to what you said at the top of your comment of the game. Müller obviously was a late scratch, and that sort of changed the planning and the strategy and the tactics that Sorensen probably had going into the match. So let me ask the question. I'm just asking questions.
I may or may not give good answers.
Is the result like a byproduct of what you said of like this planning going into the match that had to be changed in the last minute and that sort of like threw things out of whack? Or are we starting to see a little bit of a Müller pendency on this team?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? I think perhaps yes, but when you have so many other, like your first choice players out, that you're going to be more reliant on your best players in the squad, right? And obviously Thomas Müller is one of the best players on the Vancouver Whitecaps, and I think that's a fair question, right? Because I mean, as much as I love Jivan Badwal, I mean he's only 20, he's just really starting his professional career. I think he's got a pretty high ceiling as well, but no disrespect to Jivan, but or anybody else, if you're sort of tapped on the shoulder and say, okay, well, Thomas can't go, you're the guy this evening, that's an awfully big role to fill, and that's not to say that well, maybe it is. Yeah, I think maybe there is, all of a sudden you're looking to the middle of the park looking for number 13, and all of a sudden, Müller's not there. He's sitting up in the stands, up in the press box, or in the, up in the stands there because, he's not healthy enough to play. And yeah, I think, that's not to say anything about the other players. I mean, obviously there is, everybody's a little bit different, but I just think that when you have somebody with the Müller's credentials and his talent, it's obviously going to change the dynamic of the team. But
I think that until Gold is not back in form, this team is going to struggle whenever Müller is not available. because
That's fair.
like you say, for the way in which Sorensen has structured this team and how he changed the way that this team plays. Because if you remember at the beginning of last season, all the way through until Müller was available, they were playing with a solid 4-3-3, right? And then when Müller started to become part of the team, he switched to a 4-2-3-1 to create a position where Müller could play, which was like just behind, like in the 4-2-3-1, right behind the striker. So when you look at the roster, I mean, Gold is obviously the easy choice who can slot into that position. But beyond that, I mean, Jivan can kind of do it, but like he definitely does not have the kind of, like you mentioned, like pedigree and even just like ability as a whole. Like not respect to Jivan, like he's a great player, but I think he's definitely more effective, like a little bit on the wings, or a little bit even behind. A little bit more behind, not without that like number 10 sort of responsibility of the team. So because of the changes that Sorensen had to make to create this role and this formation, I don't think anyone besides Gold who can step into that role and be as effective as Müller can do. So I don't know.
But that's a great question, because I mean, Gold now is, back to limited training, but I mean, he's been out for so long. And I mean, even when he gets cleared, like he's 100% cleared to resume full training and get back, into, obviously he's got to get up to match fitness, which is going to be, it'll take a little while. I mean, he's been out for over a year, whatever it is. And I mean, even when, he gets those first minutes again, probably as a substitute at some point, right? He's going to have to rediscover, his form and his place in the team. So, I mean, ideal situation, and Gold just picks up and starts doing what he's always done for the Vancouver Whitecaps, but that's not necessarily a given. I mean, he's just missed so much time, and I just feel that even when he gets back to playing again, it's going to take some time to reintegrate into the side, right? And then,
I mean, he played a few matches towards the end of last season, right? Like he came back and at the Canadian Championship, he scored a goal, but you could tell that he definitely was not at the level that he was the previous years. And understandable, he missed basically the entire season. But I think there's going to be sort of like the same case now, right? Like he's missed like so much, like basically a third of the season already, in addition to all the time that he missed last year, with the exception of those like few matches that he was. So even when he's able to come back into the side, like he's going to take a while as well.
Yeah. And then that really begs the question that when he is like 100% healthy, will he still be the same player that he was before? I mean, that's not necessarily a given. And, I don't want to be sort of Mr. Doom and Gloom, but I mean, it's something that we have to consider when somebody has like a serious injury like that and has to spend so much time healing and rehabbing and, that injury to get back to full match fitness is, I mean, and this is not the 1980s, obviously. I mean, sports medicine has obviously come a long way, but I think that's something we're going to have to consider, is that when Ryan Gold is 100% fit, is he still going to be the same player? I mean, cross with our fingers that he is.
Cool. Okay, well, let's leave behind the southern part of the California road trip and let's move up north as the Whitecaps go up to the Bay Area to play San Jose this weekend in what has to be a phenomenal match, Mark, for many reasons, right? Number one, obviously San Jose came to BC Place and basically gave the Vancouver Whitecaps their only defeat of the season. San Jose is having an incredible year against all odds. Yeah. And when you look at the numbers, they could not be tighter, right? So you look at San Jose has played 11 matches, Vancouver only 10, but San Jose has 9 wins, Vancouver has 8, 1 draw each, 1 loss each, 26 goals for each, and San Jose has 7 goals against 6 of the Whitecaps. So the goal difference is plus 19 for San Jose, plus 20 for the Whitecaps, and the Whitecaps are 3 points behind, which is basically the game in hand that they have. So it could not be a more delicious setup for this match this weekend. Huge for the Whitecaps, because obviously if they're able to beat San Jose, they will leapfrog them, and they would cement themselves as the leader of the conference, not only the conference but in the league, right? Because when you look at the Eastern Conference, Nashville is at the top with 23 points, so they're like just 5 points behind regardless. So this is for all the marbles in terms of like they're getting to the top of the West. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, it's kind of interesting, right? I mean, years ago, I mean, this is like, I would say I dreaded playing them because it was just like, it wasn't a matchup that I really looked forward to, because, the Earthquakes of old were not an enjoyable side to play against, or even a match really that made for enjoyable watching, right? Like they just, so they've come a long way, and you have to give, props to Bruce Arena. I mean, he's
I don't want to.
I know. You don't want to. It makes me feel uncomfortable and a little bit kind of dirty, to be quite honest. But fair is fair. I mean, he's done a good job. I mean, he's taken the San Jose Earthquakes and turned them into a very, very good team. And very much like yourself, I'm really looking forward to this one. And it's going to be interesting because both teams have the identical records in the last 5 matches. Both teams have won 4 and then drawn a match. And, interestingly, they have the identical record. They won 4 in a row, and then they drew their last league match. So it's kind of like they're, what one club is doing, the other one is doing themselves, or the other one is doing to match it. But it's going to be interesting. And one thing I wanted to touch on that we didn't mention just now is, if you go back to the match last weekend, was just like the card festival, especially in the second half. I think there was like something like 7 or 8 like yellow cards. So, that was not enjoyable to watch. So, I mean, Vancouver's got to be like a little bit kind of careful with that moving forward. But I mean, a lot of those, like those bookings I thought were kind of garbage. I didn't feel like that game was really getting out of hand. But, that being said, I mean, Vancouver again. I mean, we're still dealing with injuries. I mean, like what are we expecting? Are we expecting Thomas Müller to slide back into the side this week? We know Timo Werner is out for the San Jose Earthquakes, so that's going to be an issue
Huge
for them. Yeah, that's huge, right?
He was Player of the Month in April. He scored like 27 million goals and like so
exactly.
So the Whitecaps get actually a bit of a break if Werner is not going to be suiting up on Saturday.
Yeah, because I think he pulled a hamstring in a U.S. Open Cup match. I think it was like last week or the week before or something like that. So, hamstrings could be tricky things, right? So they're going to have to, I think they're going to rely a little bit more on Preston Judd. And so I think it's going to make some interesting, some matchups. So I'm just kind of thinking, okay, so I guess we're going to see like a similar, starting 11 for the Vancouver Whitecaps. Ocampo, Blackman, Laborda, and Johnson in the back line, Kubas and Berhalter, Sabali, Whites, and honestly, I'm a little bit out of date. Do we expect Müller to play for this one, or are we going to see Giovanni Badwal back in that? Or do we see something going back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago? Does Jesper Sorensen think that if Müller's not available, is there a better option than Giovanni Badwal in that role out on the pitch?
Or you go back to a 4-3-3.
Or you go back to a 4-3-3, exactly.
Yeah,
I think, and speaking also as a Manchester United fan, and going through the painful era of Ruben Amorim, who was the coach for a while, that he was so married to his system, rather than playing a system that best fit his players, right? And I'm not a fan of that. And obviously, as a United fan, that was very painful to watch. But I think that, a clever coach will always, pivot when they need to, and, not, come hell or high water, it's like, well, I'm a 4-2-3-1 guy, so we're always going to play a 4-2-3-1. I don't think you can be that binary and that's inflexible in, especially in a top tier league. I think you have to be smart, and I think you have to go with the formation that best suits the 11 players that you have available to you on the day. So, I mean, if that's a 4-2-3-1, and personally, I like a 4-2-3-1, but I think that if it means that they need to pivot and go to a 4-3-3, by all means do it. Do what you do or you need to do to set things up and give yourself the best opportunity for success, because this is not going to be an easy game for the Whitecaps. No. I don't think it's going to be an easy game for San Jose either, and I think that's what makes it such a delicious matchup. And I think it's going to be it's something you're going to make time out of your day to sit down and watch this one, because it's going to be a cracking match. And I feel that the one thing that we were talking about just now is that Vancouver had 19 shots against the LA Galaxy. I mean, if they can if their finishing was a little bit better and they were a little bit more in sync with each other, maybe they'd win that match 2-1, 3-1, 3-2, whatever, right? And I think that if you're Jesper Sorensen, take the lessons learned from the match against the Galaxy, apply them to San Jose, because I think this is a winnable match for the Vancouver Whitecaps. I really do. It's not going to be easy. I mean, San Jose is obviously a very good team as well, but I don't feel that this is one that they should be like, well, if we come back to Vancouver, we get a point out of this one. That's mission accomplished. I think that there's 3 points on the table for them, and I think they're quite capable, even in the somewhat diminished side that they have with all the injuries still. I still think that this is winnable for them.
Just as you were talking, I was just thinking to myself that this is one of the most attractive things about MLS. Like when you think about the fact that we're sitting here and we're saying, oh my God, the best match of the match day is Vancouver against San Jose. And when you think about
10 years ago, people were saying that.
5 years ago, that would have been the lowest of the low of matches. But now, just the way in which MLS is structured and the way in which it's able to maybe make it more fair. I don't know, the way in which it's a balanced league. It allows us to, as fans, you never know what's going to happen, right? When you look at other teams that are more established, like the Premier League, the Bundesliga, the La Liga,
sure,
you know where your team is going to finish. You know who's going to be champions. So you have a very set expectations as to who what the table is going to look like. But in MLS, this is the beauty of it. Last year, San Diego was setting the West on fire, now down in 10th or whatever. And San Jose has been absolutely garbage for so long, and now they're at the top of the West. The Whitecaps have been up and down, as we well know, and now this is the best, the two best teams in the league, and I think that goes a little bit on the radar in terms of the attractiveness of the league. That if you are a fan of the Whitecaps, if you're a fan of Salt Lake, if you're a fan of Charlotte, that you always have a chance that your team is gonna do well, right? It's not necessarily the same teams at the top every year.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you as fans and as supporters. I mean, this is the thing that we love, right? But guaranteed, somewhere in a boardroom in New York, MLS is say, God damn it, that's not the matchup that we won. We won LAFC against Inter Miami. That's because that's where all the stars are. And those are a little bit more glitzy places.
You're starting to get going. Daily.
Yeah.
I can feel the rant starting to come up.
I know.
Starting to rant come
I
up.
made a promise to myself when you told me you're feeling ranty. I'm not going to rant today because I don't want to diminish your rant. So I'm guessing that the Tums didn't help. So it's an actual thing. But hey, I mean, before. Sorry, go ahead. But I've got something else to say before we let you rant afterwards. I feel like we're remiss because we're already talking about like the matchup against the San Jose Earthquakes, but I just we got to give Laborda his flowers for that goal, and I think we have to give some props to Sebastian Berhalter for that aggressive ball that into the box that off of that free kick. I mean, that was an exceptional goal. And I was just kind of like going through and reading things. Laborda now is only 3 goals behind Kendall Waston for all-time goals in MLS by a defender. I mean, Laborda now has 12. Kendall had 15. So, I didn't really appreciate that until I read that earlier today. And, that is quite the accomplishment because, I mean, Kendall was good for some big goals in his time. And, I know that's, a 1-1 draw against the LA Galaxy in a middle of the season match that, maybe doesn't get all the hype that it deserves. But, to me, even though it like that was a big goal because like we say, that salvaged the single point on a night when it looked like they were going to lose all 3 points. And we talked, in previous weeks just about the resilience of the Vancouver Whitecaps. That was resilience in action. So I just wanted to bring that up briefly because, if they were going to salvage a single point against the Galaxy, I'm glad it was on a moment like that because that was an exceptional ball by Berhalter and Laborda connected with it just, at the perfect moments because, I mean, it kind of like, when the ball went into the back of the net, I was kind of like, did that just go in? That went in? And then I kind of have, anyways, that was a me thing, but yeah.
So do we dare pass the mantle and say that it is now Matias Laborda goal machine?
Well, I mean, I'm going to have to get like my Kenny Müller goal machine tattoo like altered.
Jordan Harvey goal machine.
Jordan Harvey, but no, I mean Kenny Müller was that one too because remember like there was that thing and that person got that tattoo back in the day. I miss Kenny Müller and that's a long time ago since he was here. But
12 years.
Anyhow, yeah, 12 years. Yeah, but Matias Laborda, I mean, fair. I think that he's making some legit claims on the goal machine.
Before we move away and I go into Rant Town,
Rant Town.
Just a quick report from our friends from Offside, who's obviously led by our good friend Rob Williams, who you may know him as Rob the hockey guy, or as we like to call him, Roberto the football guy, and who was our boss at some point as when we covered the Whitecaps for what was then Van City. Van City Boss and the Daily Hive.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I have to love Rob for always sticking with that, that handle because, on first glance, it makes him like appear as a very one-dimensional hockey guy, like a one sport only. But Rob is, so knowledgeable in many sports. But like you say, he is Roberto, the football guy to us.
Sí.
Yeah. Vamos.
Okay, well, today there was a report from Offside that it reads, a new series bidder wants to buy the Whitecaps and keep them in Vancouver. Just after Las Vegas Group formally submitted an offer to buy the Whitecaps, BC MLA Ravi Kalon on Wednesday afternoon on May 6th revealed that a group has stepped up to keep the team in Vancouver. That's all I know. I trust Rob and the Offside team. So definitely positive news.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I mean Axel had this media roundtable this morning, and I guess it's kind of fair to say that he didn't reveal too much more, but I think it's kind of interesting that that Ravi Kalon did come out and say that there's this new serious bidder, and I hope there's something to it because it's kind of interesting how like the Save the Caps thing has really taken off, and I guess has it only been about a month since David Osted was in town. It hasn't really been that long, but it's really taken off. And I mean, I think the one thing that was interesting was that, like Axel was saying, that it's not just the stadium revenue, but it's maximizing and generating revenue across all their different revenue streams. And the other thing is too that it's not just a stadium issue, but it's somebody has to come in and buy the team from the current ownership group. So it would be very, very interesting, and to see who this might be. And I've just pulled up the article here from Trevor Beggs, who reported this for Offside. So Ravi Kalan met with the media on Wednesday afternoon in Victoria, and I mean, the one thing is, I was talking to our friend Simon Fudge last night, and just the whole Vegas thing. And, in football, supporters really look down their nose at clubs and the whole notion of plastic football, right? These sort of like, teams or clubs that just have owners that just kind of spend for success. There's no real history, and it's just kind of, and that sort of thing. And I thought it was kind of interesting because, Simon and I were just talking about the fact as well, say like Vancouver was moved to Vegas, and we know how hard MLS really leans on like the supporter culture and features it in a lot of their marketing and stuff like that. I mean, like to me, like moving any franchise in MLS to Vegas would just by definition be plastic football. And just, I think that would just be instantly the one club that would be hated by every other set of supporters and fans in every other city in MLS. But anyways, it's interesting. I mean, Ravi was saying that apparently that there's a group that's reached out to the government. Apparently, they've been organizing for a couple of weeks, to put in a bid to the Whitecaps. He didn't reveal any details, and I'm sure a lot of these discussions would be, obviously confidential at this time. I mean, Axel was saying that again today that there's been over 100 groups in the past year and a half since the ownership said they wanted to sell the Whitecaps that have expressed interest in the team, with, only 30 of them, passing the initial vetting stage. So I guess, we were in the 70 that didn't make the cut once they looked at our credit statements, and it's just like, yeah, Mark and Jorge are not buying the team. And I thought, the Kickstarter that I'm just joking anyways, but no, I mean, I really hope that there's something to this, and I hope that it's a serious bid, and I just hope we're not being set up for a fall, right? Because I still feel that there's all this kind of like finger pointing and not really a lot coming.
Why would you say that? Why are you taking this away from us?
I'm not trying to take anything away. I'm just trying to manage expectations.
They just said that a hero with a white stallion just arrived, like Gandalf came at the very last minute of the battle with the 7 armies to save the day. And you're coming in, we're like, what if this goes away? Like, what is the matter with you?
So I'm going to retract that, because that was one of my favorite moments in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So, I'm getting the feels right now. So yeah, I'll give it back to you, because I don't want to ruin it. But no, I mean, joking aside though, I mean, it's a positive development, right? And there's got to be something serious to it. I mean, I couldn't see, a government minister like Ravi Kalan coming out and saying that if there wasn't something to it, right? And I mean, earlier in the week, he was also interviewed by Offside talking about the situation. So I really hope that I don't want to take away. I just want to make sure that, this is what it is. And I'm hopeful that because it's coming out the way that it is, that it's a sincere and proper bid. So I look forward to find out more details.
Here's a fun question for you.
Okay.
Would you rather that the Vancouver Whitecaps remain in the city owned by the Aquilinis, or for them to move to Vegas?
Oh man, come on. That's not a fair question. Oh my God. That's dirty. That is a dirty question. Oh, it's just like,
hey man, we gotta take whatever we can get.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, I'd rather see them here owned by them than not at all. That's my personal view.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'll concede that it's better to keep them there. But then, do we just prolong the inevitable? I don't know. That's yeah. No,
Okay.
I'm not down with that.
Here I come.
Okay,
Magdalene. My position is that the arrival of Lionel Messi has been a detriment and a negative thing for the league.
Ooh, spicy.
I don't think that Messi leaving, I don't think he's gonna leave this league. He's not gonna be better off than before he arrived. When you look at what the league is doing to accommodate this player, is ridiculous. When you look at the stuff that he gets away with, let me give you a few examples of this. This weekend, Inter Miami played Orlando City in what is the Florida Classico, or whatever you may call it. Mm-hmm. Inter Miami went up 3-0 at the 33rd minute. Lionel Messi scored the third goal for Miami. The match ended 4-3 for Orlando. It has been one of the most incredible comebacks in the history of this league. They scored 4 unanswered goals, including a hat trick by Orlando striker Martin Ojeda. He scored at the 39th, at the 68th, and the 79th, and then Tyrese Spicer won it for Orlando at the 93rd minute. Who got the Player of the Match award? Lionel Messi.
What? Come on. No.
Lionel Messi. When you look at the calls that he gets away with, what he gets, like I've seen players run past him and he gets a foul call. I have seen him throw elbows and not get a call against. I had seen him go into the dressing room of referees after a match to yell at them with total impunity. He makes the league look bush. He makes the league amateur. I understand that he's Lionel Messi, arguably, I don't think so, but arguably the best player that has ever played. You cannot, as a league, allow those kind of behaviors and just put everything on a platter. Correct. Mm-hmm. I don't think that there's a player that is bigger than the league. There's a level of competition and fairness that you have to protect at all costs. And these kind of decisions are ridiculous and insulting for the league. And when people outside of the league look at this, it doesn't help with the image that the league is trying to shed for so long. Mm-hmm. Right? That is a subpar league, that it is a league that it doesn't take competition seriously. These kind of stuff is what fuels that, Mark. And the other thing is, again, when you look at what is going to happen when Messi leaves, the league is not going to be better than before he was here. Mm-hmm. They signed the Apple TV deal before he arrived. Yes, maybe they're getting a lot more views and a lot more eyeballs to the league, but those eyeballs are going to leave as soon as Messi leaves, just like it happened with PSG. Mm-hmm. Right? Hopefully they convert a few people to the league. That would be phenomenal. But in terms of overall growth of the league, I don't think that it's going to change that much. I still think that the most important signing that this league has ever had and will ever have is David Beckham. Mm-hmm. When you look at where the league was before Beckham came, there were no academies. There was the expansion of the league exploded after Beckham arrived, and the league was literally one before Beckham and one after, and we are mostly in the position that we are as a league, and I consider like fans part of like the whole thing, thanks to David Beckham back in 2007. I don't think that kind of like explosion, and I don't think that kind of impact is going to be felt or it's going to happen after Messi leave. And I can see some naysayers saying like, well, you know, the league is much more developed, so there's not that much more to develop after him arrives. Maybe, but I still think that the benefits are not going to stick around after Messi.
Yeah.
After Messi comes, after Messi leaves, and some might say, oh, you're just sour grapes because Inter like beat the Whitecaps in the final. And hey, listen, I'm saying that he gets calls, and I'm saying that I don't think that was the case in the final of MLS Cup. I think that Miami won fair and square. Did they deserve it? No. Were they the better team on the day? No. But that's just football, and I don't think that the referee gave them a call that led for the Whitecaps to lose. No, they just scored one more goal, and that was the end of it. But the more I see this stuff happening with Lionel Messi, I don't know if you know what happened with Javier Mascherano. So Javier Mascherano stepped down from being the Inter Miami manager a couple weeks ago, and obviously he led them to MLS Cup in December. They were having a decent enough season up to 2 weeks ago when they were, I believe, third in the East.
I think they still are.
Yeah, so they decided to step away. So it wasn't because of results. So reading like Paul Tenorio and people from The Athletic, there are rumblings that even though they were teammates in Barcelona and they were teammates at the Argentinian national team, they started to butt heads between Messi and Mascherano, and Mascherano obviously didn't get the support from the club and decided to step away. And that is a club decision, which, hey, you can do whatever you want with your club and manage it the way that you are. But that's just another example, another small example. What I'm talking about is more league-wide approach to Messi being in this league, and I don't think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, again, it's fine to have like your marquee players. Every sport and every league needs its stars. I mean, that's just part of what makes sports enjoyable to watch. Like, you're lucky if one of those big, stars plays for your team. But on the flip side, if one of those players don't and your team's playing against them, you want your team to beat the bejeebus out of that team whenever they play them, right? That's just normal. That's just healthy, dynamics when it comes to sports. But, I agree with like your take. I feel that he does get a lot of like unfair calls that go in his favor statistically more than should, like things going into the referee's locker room and just having, a temper tantrum or whatever. That's not cool, because at the end of the day, sure, MLS, have your stars, NFL, have your stars, EPL, La Liga, whoever, have your stars, but at the end of the day, they're the stars. They can't be bigger than the game or the league or the club itself, right? I mean, that's fine if they have like, the swagger and the status and the popularity and everything like that. But at the end of the day, you got to keep it all in perspective, because like you say, when you zoom out and look at it from a broader perspective, 100%, it does make the league look bush. That, it's almost like they're bending backwards to accommodate Messi, or at worst, pandering to him. And that's not the way it should be. Yeah. So stuff like that is frustrating, but that situation with Mascherano, that you'd just love to be like a fly on the wall in that situation, behind closed doors, because you like, why would you want to walk away? Like, you just won MLS Cup, last year. I mean, isn't like the next goal is, for this season is to defend that title, to try and win it again, so it seems like a very odd time for somebody to walk away like that, or to be, mutually parted ways is usually the term that, comes out in like a PR statement, right? Sort of read between the lines on that. So yeah, things like that are frustrating, but I mean, the timing for Beckham when he came was just perfect because you remember like that game at BC Place the year before the Whitecaps jumped to MLS,
Yeah.
like that Beckham game, and like it was like the entire stadium was filled at that like that. I mean, Beckham had that draw, and then like Messi is just another one of those sort of like like older players that to me I feel like a little bit sort of childish and petulant that I don't want to play at BC Place because the turf hurts my knees, and it's just like, give me a bleeping break. We've heard these like excuses from everywhere, like even Beckham in his later years to Thierry Henry, like Luis Suarez, Messi. I mean, it's like, yeah, exactly. Marquez as well. Like, a lot of these, like players, once they came to MLS, used the same bunk excuse that, that they were come to Vancouver, this sort of poster person that's like the pinnacle of vitality and health and, fitness and agility. And they're literally going to be like hobbling off the pitch after a 90-minute match against the Whitecaps with like splints and crutches and God only knows what. They'll be carried off on a stretcher. It's like, give me a break. Yeah, it's not an ideal surface. I get that, but it's not like it's going to ruin your body forever. It's just like, give me a break. It's like, get the violins out whenever you hear the standard excuse. It's like, yeah, it's just, and that's what really soured a lot of people was that, that match when Inter was going to come to Vancouver last year, the year before, whatever it was, and Miami et al. Decided that, the same thing, that they would not, want to risk like their, like permanent nerve damage or whatever it was, for, playing a match against the Vancouver Whitecaps, which, I think the Whitecaps should flex on that, honestly. It's just like, players don't want to come and play against us because they fear the turf monster, the mighty BC Place turf monster. It's like, it's where dreams and careers come to die. It's like, fear the mighty turf, quake at the turf. I would flex on that a little bit more, but, joking aside, yeah, I mean, back to the, to your point, he should not be bigger than the sport itself or the league itself. And yeah, I mean, he just, it'll be interesting when, like, how old is he now? 38, 39?
38?
I can't remember. Something like that, right? So, I mean, realistically, how many more years is he going to play? I mean, is he going to play till he's like 50? I doubt it. Maybe a couple more years at most. And then,
he's 38.
38. Okay. So that's, occasionally you get things right. And today was my turn.
39 during the World Cup.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Interesting.
June 24th.
So, I mean, arguably we are seeing like, like Messi right at the tail end of his career. And I feel that, yeah, he'll get his props and everything once he decides to retire. But I don't know. I feel that like in an MLS, pardon me, perspective or context, I just don't feel like it's going to be like a massive thing. The league might try to make, like through their PR machine, try and make it a big thing that when he retires. But I think for everybody else that's not like, an Inter Miami, supporter, be kind of like, yeah, okay. See ya.
All right. Let's leave it at that.
We shall leave it at that, my friends. We are almost at the hour mark, so there you go. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. Enjoy the game Saturday night against the I don't want to say mighty, against the reinvented. I don't know,
reinvigorated.
The reinvigorated. Well, the all-new, let's put it, the all-new San Jose Earthquakes and the Vancouver Whitecaps should be a good one at PayPal Park on Saturday night. Enjoy, take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you again very soon. Bye for now.